All right, guys. Happy Wednesday. Today, we're going to talk about perimenopause, talking about hormones and the hormonal changes that happen during perimenopause and menopause. So we'll briefly discuss actually like what's happening in your body, but mostly we'll actually talk about what to actually do to feel better. So maybe you've experienced hot flashes, night sweats, insomnias, insomnia or migraines, belly fat. Maybe you never carried weight in your belly before, and all of a sudden that seems to be where you're gaining weight. That's really frustrating. Irritability, heavy or irregular periods, or both. Maybe you've been told by your doctor that you're insulin resistant, or maybe they used words like prediabetes, or maybe you've even crossed over into being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. These can all be signs and symptoms of perimenopause, which is basically like a second puberty. So when we have our first period our first puberty at like 12, 13 years old, we have estrogen already, and then progesterone is increasing. But we have this difference between we have high estrogen and low progesterone relative to each other. So the same thing is happening, just kind of in the opposite direction when we go through perimenopause, where we have high estrogen and now progesterone is decreasing. So again, we have high estrogen and low progesterone. And there are things that we can do in our daily life that can exacerbate this kind of chasm between the two. And that will create worse symptoms for us during perimenopause. Eventually, the estrogen will lower as well when we are in full menopause. So after you've had like a year of no period at all, then you're considered fully in menopause. And then your hormone levels will be very low. So I talked about insulin resistance. So that might be something you've experienced as well, or your doctor have told you that, again, that pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes talk. And this is basically your cells have a reduced ability now to handle the insulin in your body. And that leads to abdominal fat storage, but also can lead to things like memory loss, fibroids, facial hair, high cholesterol, and other not so fun symptoms. So this sounds like a really good time of life, right? Unfortunately, we can't stop it, right? Just like we couldn't stop our first puberty that we didn't want to go through, we can't stop the second puberty. So what we have to do is just make the most of it and do what we can in order to feel as good as we can. So we're going to go over the guide. Sorry, I just whoops. Got to hit the right button, so I always stumble through doing this. Sorry if you can hear my dog whining. What is the Chrome tab? That's the one we want. All right. Okay, so this is the Live to Thrive Perimenopause Survival Guide, and so that's already in the Reformed Health community. So you can find that there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can join the group and you can see it there as well. So these aren't necessarily perimenopause specific things that you need to do. These are all things that are just general health tips, but they're particularly important during perimenopause because we just kind of have less of a margin of error as far as our health goes. We're more, because we have this changing hormonal situation. Like, think about how volatile you were when you were like 12 to 15, or if you have, girls that age, how volatile they are. Your body is in kind of a similar state. So we have to be a little bit more, just give ourselves more care, basically. We can't, eat like we're 20 anymore and live like we're 20 anymore and expect to still feel decent. We're going to have greater consequences as far as how we're feeling now. So again, these are general health tips, but they're especially important if you are experiencing perimenopause symptoms. So the first thing, we're going to nourish your body with what it actually needs. So high protein. As you age, especially as we get into perimenopause, your muscle mass is decreasing. This is a safety concern, just functionally speaking, right? I train people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and I've got people who can hardly stand up and sit down because they've lost so much muscle. They can hardly reach over their head because they've lost so much muscle because they haven't been eating enough protein and they just haven't been doing the things, to exercise those muscles. So high protein, and even having a significant serving of protein by 10 a.m. is actually shown to help with female hormones. Eating lots of produce, varied in color. So think about eating the rainbow. Like how many different colors of vegetables and fruits can you eat today? And you want healthy fats. So that's fats from fish, avocado oil, or olives. So like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, nuts and seeds, those kinds of things. So naturally occurring fats, especially from fish and plant-based sources. And then one more note I just want to make on the protein, because protein is really important. When you lose weight, you lose both muscle and fat. We're already losing muscle just based on the fact that we're aging. Okay, it's called sarcopenia. It's your body, your muscle wasting away. So if you want to build a brick wall, you need two main components. You need the labor to do the actual building, and then you need the raw material. You need the bricks to make the brick wall, okay? So is when we're talking about muscle, the labor is your workouts, all right? It's actually doing resistance training. We'll get to that in a minute. But the bricks is the protein. You have to have the building blocks in order to build that muscle, and that comes from protein. So on to resistance training. To build and even just preserve your muscle tissue, you need to do 2 to 3 resistance training sessions a week. This doesn't have to be super hardcore. Like my shirt says barbell on it. You don't have to be throwing around barbells in order to do resistance training. This can look like body weight and bands, okay? This is what I have in the Live to Thrive program. I have a 3-day-a-week, full body, bands and body weight program built completely out. You have your own app and you get to go through it and preserve and even build muscle. More muscle equals better insulin sensitivity. That's a good thing. Equals less fat storage. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is. We want a nice rip-roaring fast metabolism so that we can go and have that night out, go have that week camping, eating s'mores and hot dogs and whatever else you eat when you go camping, and not gain a bunch of weight because you have a super slow metabolism. So having more muscle mass allows you to get to eat more without gaining weight. Okay, switching gears here now to gut health. Gut health is total body health. Okay, I really want to make that really clear. If it happens in your body, it's happening in your gut first. Okay, like 80% of your immune system starts in your gut. Your hormones are metabolized in your gut. Your most of your like neurotransmitters in your brain and your gut are linked. Okay, so like the gut bone is connected to the stress bone, is connected to the sleep bone, is connected to the acne bone, right? Like they're all connected. So you want to pay attention to how certain foods make you feel. If you know every time I eat X, I feel like Y. Well, if you don't want to feel like that, don't eat that food. If it's causing you an immediate symptom, it's probably causing some systemic inflammation and kind of like this snowball effect that you're not even aware of, and having an effect on your hormones. So you want to avoid those foods that make you feel bloated, inflamed, like really tired and sluggish. Maybe you notice you're just like achy after you eat certain types of food. You want to avoid those types of food. So far we've covered actually in numbers 1 and 3 here regarding food, the Power Ps, the Live to Thrive Power Ps, which is prioritize protein and produce and pay attention to how you feel. So nutritionally, if you do that, it's going to be a really good way into keeping you less inflamed and into giving your body what it needs and avoiding what it doesn't need. So other things you can do, eat probiotic foods. So like fermented foods, like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, drink kombucha, things like that. And you can take a probiotic and then just refer back to step 1, the nutritional things for the foods you need to be eating. All right, sleep is key. More connections. Use good sleep hygiene. So you can check out the Live to Thrive Guide to Better Sleep for more specific in-depth details here, but I'll just go over a few, like the heavy hitters here. Have a set bedtime and wake-up time. That will help to stabilize your hormones when you have that normal rhythm, that normal circadian rhythm. These are all hormones, okay? So you maybe heard of cortisol, the stress hormone, melatonin, the sleep hormone. These have an inverse relationship. So if you're really, really stressed and you're not getting enough sleep, your melatonin is going to be low and your cortisol is going to be too high. We have to keep these in balance, and actually having a set bedtime and a set wake up time actually helps with that. So just sleeping in a cool, dark room And not having bright lights in your house, bright screens right in your face, that's also going to disrupt those hormones. And again, the cortisol bone and the melatonin bone, those are connected to the insulin bone and the fat gating bone and all of that. So we've talked about giving your body what it needs, including sleep, including good gut health, including resistance training and nutrition. But what about what it doesn't need? So we need to avoid environmental toxins. One of those things specifically is going to be alcohol, unfortunately. So, not saying you can't ever have alcohol, but we're talking about, I want to minimize the symptoms I'm having. I want to feel as good as possible. Well, alcohol is not going to be part of that recipe for feeling as best as you possibly can, because alcohol is going to impair your sleep, it's going to impair your gut function, and it's going to mess up your estrogen metabolism. Okay, so you're going to have basically like excess estrogen, which is going to again create a wider gap between estrogen and the decreasing progesterone. It's going to spur up the stress response. It's a toxin, so it creates a stress response, and that creates further hormonal imbalances. And it also actually is shown to increase appetite in women. So I don't know about you, but when I drink, I tend to also eat things that I wouldn't normally eat. I usually end up overeating. The next day, I feel like crap because of a combination of the alcohol I drank and the food that I ate as a result of it. So I just want to pause real quick, take a breath. I'm going to take a drink, stay hydrated as well. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat. I'm not sure if anybody's able to watch right now. That's okay. All right. So alcohol is its own specific category of environmental toxin, but we have other environmental toxins as well. And you want to reduce or eliminate food-related plastics. Okay. So eating food that comes in plastic, especially heating up your food, like microwaving food in plastic containers, is really bad, because there are these things called xenoestrogens, which are basically like they like mimic the estrogen molecule, and but it's not actually estrogen, and it will get into your system, and it basically, your body responds to it in the same way it would to estrogen. So it's creating again that greater divide between estrogen being high and progesterone being low. Is also found in fragrances. So things, like anything that's scented that you have, whether it's your deodorant, your moisturizer, your shampoo and conditioner, perfume, even like laundry, soap, stuff like that. Those fragrances all contain xenoestrogens, which are going to mess with your hormone balance. If you work in a job where you work retail and you're having to handle receipts all the time, that plasticky coating on receipts that makes pens hard to work sometimes. Okay, so that too contains xenoestrogens. So if you have to handle receipts all the time, I recommend wearing gloves while you're doing that, so it's not being absorbed through your skin all the time. And then avoiding ultra processed foods too. These are going to be toxic foods. So think about foods that come in packages, in bags, foods that can contain ingredients that are hard to say. Those are ultra processed foods, and they're going to contain all, variety of toxins that are ultimately not going to be good for your system. And your body has to work hard to kind of detoxify that, which means that it's dumping adrenaline and insulin and cortisol, all these hormones. It sends them out of balance. So we have all this stress. We need to prioritize that stress relief. So there's going to be stress in life, okay? There has always been stress in life. The difference is the cavewoman version of ourselves, stress was getting food and being food, right? We're not being chased by a charge of rhinos anymore. But our charge of rhinos is going to be traffic, incessant Zoom calls. Maybe you have teenagers, or maybe you have you're caring for, your parents or grandparents or someone in your family. You have these real life things that are happening all the time that are constantly creating stress, and you can't get rid of them. We can't get rid of our family. We can't get rid of traffic. Doesn't look like we're getting rid of Zoom anytime soon. These things are going to happen. So what we have to do is we have to be proactive about making sure that we have the opposite effect, basically, relaxation techniques, in order to reduce the effects of the stress that are just inevitable in our life. So there's two main portions of our automatic or autonomic nervous system. There's the fight or flight, okay? And that's what we're in all the time, okay? You're busy, you're anxious, you're going from one thing to the next, you're worried about things. That's all your fight or flight mode that you're living in, which is like most of the time. But we need time in the rest and digest time. This is the time we actually build muscle. This is the time where we actually repair muscle. This is the time where our body actually detoxifies and does the natural processes that it needs to do, like resting and digesting. It can't do that when we're constantly in this frenzied and being chased by a charge of rhinos, biologically speaking, state. So we need to take time out, carve out time in our day and in our week to make this happen. So this could just be fun times. This could be like go paddleboarding or go kayaking, go for a hike, do something like active and fun, doing whether it's with other people, go, play cornhole, badminton, something that you enjoy doing with other people. Or it can just, or it can just be simple things like breathing techniques. Like you can literally set an alarm on your phone for maybe a couple of times a day where you just stop and take 3 deep breaths. Or maybe you want to take out 10 minutes to meditate. I highly recommend either Headspace or Calm, the apps, to use for guided meditation. Okay, there's lots of different things you can do, including, even if you want to be a little bit more hardcore, you can even do things like cold exposure. So where you take a cold shower or do a cold plunge, or a little bit less extreme, but you just take your regular shower, and then at the end of the shower, you turn the water to cold. I recommend doing some breathing techniques while you're doing this. And it actually helps your body learn to deal with stress. You cause kind of an immediate stressor, and it helps your body to learn how to deal with that stress. And ultimately, after that moment of stress, you have that come down afterwards. So finally, I've given you a lot of lifestyle things to do. These are lots of things that you have to go do. What about something we can just buy and just pop a pill? Well, I've got that for you too. Do all of those other things, but you can also supplement with magnesium glycinate, and actually can actually really help, because magnesium helps to normalize the action of hormones like progesterone, which is decreasing. So the little progesterone you have, we want to be able to utilize it as best as possible, and magnesium will help with that. It also supports healthy thyroid, helps healthy metabolism and vitamin D absorption. It also reduces the risk of heart disease and insulin resistance. Okay, so we have a lot. See how all of these things are connected again, right? The gut health bone is connected to the stress bone, is connected to the sleep bone, is connected to the, did I already say stress? Is connected to the belly fat storage bone. They're all connected here. And magnesium is actually one of those things that you can actually supplement with and see some good relief. So what you want to do is check with your doctor, especially if you're taking any other sort of supplements or medication. But the recommended dose is 300 to 400 milligrams. You take that at night, and it'll help you sleep better as well, and can help even with symptoms like hot flashes or night sweats at night. And if you have any questions about what kind of magnesium supplements you should take, just let me know. If you have one in particular, you say, hey, this is what I take, is this good? Drop it in the comments or take a picture of it and send it to me, and I'll be happy to let you know. So I'm gonna stop my screen share there. So I would love to know as well, do you have any particular symptoms that are bothering you, that is something that I didn't cover today? Or is there any other questions you have about perimenopause that I didn't already cover? And then what can you do right now? So you can get some magnesium glycinate if you don't already have it. And then I would focus really on those power Ps, the Live to Thrive power Ps. Prioritize protein, produce, and pay attention to how you feel. Do that today. Eat a significant source of protein at every meal, and see how many veggies, how many different colors of fruits and vegetables you can eat today. Have a great one, guys. Remember, reform your lifestyle, reform your health.